Hello, my friends, it's Danny, and today, you ready, Bang? I'm waiting for you. Just kidding, just kidding. Hello, my friends, it's Danny, and for today's recipe, I am sharing a cabbage soup. Specifically, this is a shredded cabbage and potato soup that is very simple to make, super nutritious, absolutely delicious, and budget friendly. This truly is comfort food at its best, so I am very excited to share it with you. Now, some people, when they think cabbage soup, they think of the recipe from the Cabbage Soup diet. And while this is not that recipe, although I'm sure that recipe is delicious, the only reason that cabbage is associated with weight loss is because, like most vegetables, it's high in nutrients, high in fiber, while being low in calories. So it tends to keep us feeling very full for a long period of time. But keep in mind, if you're somebody who's trying to eat a healthier diet, you really want to include an abundance of fresh, beautiful foods, because if you hyper-focus on one food, you're gonna get super bored. And the key is to keep things fresh and exciting and delicious, which brings me to my shredded cabbage and potato soup. Now, the first thing I like to do is prepare my vegetables, because once we get over to the stove, things move pretty quickly. So I'm gonna start with one chopped onion. Now, the easiest way to chop an onion is to trim off the stem side of the onion. You don't want to cut off the root because that's what holds the onion together. Then I'm going to slice it in half lengthwise, remove this papery outer skin, and you'll see sometimes you'll also take the first layer of the onion with that. That's totally fine. Lay it flat side down, and then your non-cutting hand is on top of the onion, and we are going to create horizontal slices through this onion, and then vertical slices, just like you're making a checkerboard. Then you're going to come straight over the top and slice straight down, and you have a chopped onion. If you haven't mastered this skill yet, it's really one worth practicing because it will save you so much time in the kitchen. Next, I need 2 thinly sliced stalks of celery. So I'm just going to trim off the bottom and the top of some freshly washed celery and then slice this into thin half moons. Then we have the star of the show, some cabbage. Now, you're going to need somewhere between 10 to 12 cups of thinly shredded, aka thinly sliced cabbage. I am using a Savoy cabbage for this recipe, which is very similar to green cabbage, but you're going to notice that the major difference is that the leaves are crinkled looking on the outside, as you can see right here. I like the Savoy cabbage simply because I find once it cooks up in the soup that it holds its shape a little bit better, but it is a little more expensive than green cabbage, so they are 100% interchangeable, and as always, you want to use what you love, use what you have, and or use what is available. So to prepare my cabbage, I just start by pulling off any outer leaves that look a little bit beat up. Then I'm going to slice the cabbage in half, take my knife down on a diagonal on each side of the core that runs right through the bottom center here. That's really tough and you don't want to eat that. You'll see that it pops right out. And then I'm going to cut the cabbage again so that I've got 4 quarters and then come across and slice it as thinly as you possibly can. This is what creates that shredded cabbage texture, which I personally think is delicious in this soup. If you prefer to cut your cabbage a little thicker or to chop it up, that is totally up to you, but I love this shredded texture. And then usually what I'll do is once I have it thinly sliced like this, I'll come across once in the opposite direction and just slice it in half so that those strands aren't super long. Should you have leftover cabbage, you can put that in an airtight container and then you can either add it to a salad, do a quick saute, or maybe you want to try my simple coleslaw recipe. So many cabbage options. Then the only other vegetable we need to prepare are the potatoes. So you're going to need 1 pound of baby potatoes. Any type will do. You can see I have really little ones. And I'm going to start by giving them a rinse under some cold water, get them nice and clean, and then you're just going to slice them in half or possibly in quarters, depending on how big your potatoes are and depending on how chunky you like them in your soup. I like them to be on the smaller, bite-sized size so that when I'm eating it with my soup, it's really easy to just shove it right into my mouth. It's true. Okay, we've got all the veggies prepped and ready to go, so we are ready to take them over to the stove and cook up this delicious cabbage and potato soup. So I have a nice big Dutch oven hanging out on my stove. I'm gonna remove the lid, turn on the heat, and add about a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. You just want to heat that oil. Once it gets hot, in go the onions and the celery along with a pinch of salt. Give that a gentle stir and let it go for about 5 minutes. You're probably going to give it a couple of stirs while it's cooking. The goal here is for the veggies to become a little bit tender and for those onions to become translucent. Ideally, you don't want the onions to brown. If you notice your onions are browning, just turn the heat down a little bit. Okay, this looks really good, so we're ready for our spices. I'm gonna add in a half a teaspoon of ground coriander, which is like nice and bright, a half a teaspoon of smoked paprika, and then a teaspoon of dried oregano. And then I have one 15-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. This could also be diced tomatoes. They could be fire roasted tomatoes. They could have basil added to them. Again, the name of the game is use what you have on hand. All of these options will work beautifully. I'm gonna stir that all together. Give it just a minute or two to mingle, let everybody get to know each other. And then I'm going to add in my shredded cabbage. And it's gonna look like a lot of cabbage, but don't worry, as it cooks and softens, it cooks down quite a bit. I'm gonna season that with a little bit of salt, a little bit of black pepper, and then we're ready for the liquid. Now you have a couple of options here. You could do all veggie broth if you want to make a vegetarian soup. You could do all chicken broth if you love the flavor of chicken broth. In a pinch, you could do all water. But what I like to do is I start with 2 cups of chicken bone broth. Bone broth is very rich, it's very nourishing, plus 2 cups packs 20 grams of protein. So I really love that. But you may also notice that bone broth is rather pricey. So I just do a little bit to get those benefits, and then I use water for the rest. So I have 2 cups of bone broth and about 5 cups of water. And again, you can add a little bit more or a little bit less liquid depending on your personal preference. Do you like a thin brothy soup? Do you like a little bit heartier and thicker? You are the creator, my friend, so just do whatever lights you up. Okay, I'm gonna turn the heat up a bit. Everything is gonna come up to a soft boil. Once you have a nice steady simmer like you see here, I just take it down a little bit, put the lid on, partially covered, set your timer for 10 minutes. This gives that cabbage a little bit of time to get a head start. Then I remove the lid. You can see the cabbage has softened a bit, it's cooked down a bit, and now I'm gonna add in my potatoes. Give that another stir. Turn the heat back up. We're coming back up to that boil. It's kind of like a strong simmer, light boil. From there, you can turn the heat down just a little bit. Again, partially cover with your lid and set your timer for about 15 minutes. From here, really all we're looking for is for those potatoes to become fork tender and for all of those flavors to come together. This really is a simple, quick cooking cabbage soup. So it is a recipe that you could pull together on a Tuesday night. And also keep in mind that this is a very flexible, adaptable recipe. So you could add extra vegetables or just swap out veggies with whatever you have on hand. If you want to bump up the protein, you could add your favorite plant-based protein to the recipe, or you could add a little bit of ground pork or some sausage. All of these options would be absolutely delicious. Once the potatoes and the cabbage are nice and tender, I love to serve this topped with some fresh Parmesan cheese right over the top and another hearty sprinkle of black pepper. It is so simple, but so delicious. I honestly think that sometimes it's the most simple meals that are truly the most satisfying. It's fresh and light, but still manages to be hearty and comforting all at the same time. Delightful. Genuinely delightful. I'm super excited for you to try this cabbage and potato soup recipe. And when you do, make sure you come down to the comments below and let me know what you think. And if you enjoy easy, healthy, doable recipes just like this, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new recipe. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Danny Spies, and I'll see you back here next time with some more clean and deliciousness. Cheers!